Welcome back to the Technology Risk Podcast.
And yeah, before we get started today, if you find this discussion useful, please just take a second now to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It genuinely helps us reach more people who might need this perspective.
Absolutely. Do hit that subscribe button. Okay, let's get into it. We've gathered some material today that really focuses on a risk that, well, it seems to be growing constantly as AI tools become more embedded in business.
Right. It's the risk that comes from relying on AI systems, maybe trusting them without actually, understanding how they work internally, what's really going on under the hood.
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing businesses use AI for almost everything now: customer service, marketing, complex financial analysis, even operational decisions. But this dependence, it comes with these hidden, sometimes pretty significant risks if that trust isn't backed by understanding.
That's what our sources are really pointing to, the sharp end of these concerns. Things like the lack of transparency, the whole issue of AI hallucinations, generating incorrect stuff, and critically, how these systems handle sensitive data.
It is a complex area, and there's one statistic from the material that really, well, it jumped out at me. Something like 73% of business leaders admit they don't fully get how their own AI systems reach the decisions they make.
73%. I mean, think about that. Nearly 3/4 of leaders aren't completely sure how a core technology they're using actually functions. That's a bit alarming.
It really is. So our goal today is to explore those hidden risks. What are they specifically? And maybe more importantly, talk about some practical strategies, things you can actually do to make sure your use of AI is responsible, transparent, and ultimately trustworthy.
Okay, so where do we start? Maybe by trying to understand this black box idea.
Good idea. What makes these AI systems so opaque? Why is that fundamentally a problem?
Well, the term black box is popular because for many advanced AI models, especially things like deep learning, the internal processes are just incredibly complex. We're talking millions, maybe billions of parameters.
So it's not like traditional code where you can trace the logic step by step?
Exactly. You provide input, you get an output. But the journey in between, how data is transformed, which factors are weighted heavily, why a specific conclusion is reached, it's often not clear, sometimes even to the developers who built it.
And that lack of insight is the core risk.
It did a major one, yes.
Yeah.
Because you might get an answer that looks plausible, but you don't have a clear view of all the factors the AI considered, or, crucially, what it might have missed or weighted wrongly. That's where hidden biases or errors can creep in.
Can you give an example where this opacity caused real issues?
Sure. There's a well-known case involving a financial firm. They used an AI for loan approvals, but because the process was opaque, they didn't realize it had developed a subtle bias against certain groups.
And they didn't catch it until
Regulators stepped in and they faced significant public backlash. The bias wasn't obvious just looking at the approval rates initially. It was buried inside that black box logic.
That makes the risk very concrete. And the data shows this isn't an isolated worry. 65% of companies are apparently concerned about AI transparency and explainability, so lots of people are grappling with this.
And beyond just the process being opaque, there's the accuracy problem itself, particularly with generative AI. We hear the term AI hallucinations a lot.
Right, which isn't the AI literally seeing things, but generating outputs that sound convincing but are just wrong.
Exactly. Factually incorrect, maybe nonsensical or misleading information, but often presented with this air of absolute confidence. And that's incredibly risky when these tools are used for important business tasks.
You can imagine if you're using AI for, say, summarizing medical notes or drafting legal documents or even critical market reports, a hallucination could be disastrous.
Absolutely. Take healthcare. An AI assisting with interpreting medical scans, if it hallucinates or misreads something critical, that could directly lead to a misdiagnosis. Terrible for the patient, obviously, but it also shatters trust to the technology and the provider using it.
A truly frightening scenario. And the stats back this up, too. 60% of companies using generative AI say they run into accuracy issues occasionally or even frequently. That's a high percentage of potential errors.
Then there's the whole data side of things. Data privacy and potential misuse.
Yeah.
A lot of companies feeding data into AI tools, especially third-party ones, don't have a completely clear picture of how that data is being collected, processed, stored, maybe even shared.
So you might think your data is being handled according to your rules, but the AI tool's internal workings are basically invisible. You can't be sure.
Precisely. And that lack of visibility is a huge risk vector for privacy breaches or data misuse. We saw a case where an AI analytics tool accidentally exposed sensitive customer data. Why? because its internal data handling was opaque and didn't actually align with the company's safeguards.
Ouch. Costly mistake, I imagine.
It's very. Litigation, reputational damage, the works. And again, this fear isn't unfounded. 54% of businesses worry specifically about potential data misuse by AI systems. It all comes back to that core issue. If you can't see inside, you can't fully control or protect what's happening.
Okay, so these underlying issues, opacity, hallucinations, data handling uncertainties, they translate into some pretty serious dangers for businesses placing maybe too much blind trust in AI.
Definitely. Let's talk about those direct risks. One of the most immediate is probably regulatory and legal exposure.
How so?
Well, if your opaque AI makes biased decisions or handles data improperly without you realizing it, you could suddenly find yourself violating regulations. Think GDPR, CCPA, or specific industry compliance rules.
Right, like that retail company you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. They got hit with significant GDPR fines. Why? Because an AI tool they were using was collecting and processing customer data in ways they weren't fully aware of, and it wasn't compliant. The opacity hid the violation.
And that's happening more often.
Seems so. The data suggests AI transparency issues were a factor in about 45% of regulatory actions involving AI last year. Almost half. That's a stark number, linking compliance failures directly to not understanding the AI.
Wow. Beyond the fines, though, there's the hit to your reputation, right?
Oh, absolutely. Immense risk there. If an AI used by your company makes public errors, spreads misinformation tied to your brand, or is revealed to have hidden biases, the damage to customer trust can be severe. And rebuilding that trust, very difficult.
Yeah, trust is hard won, easily lost. There's a stat on that, too, isn't there?
There is. 58% of consumers say they lose trust in a business after AI-related mistakes or privacy issues. So one slip-up from an opaque AI can instantly erode that customer confidence.
And then there are the direct operational and financial consequences.
Yes. If you're making key business decisions based on AI outputs you don't fully grasp, or if the AI's accuracy is questionable, you could end up with flawed strategies, inefficient operations, disruptions, all hitting the bottom line.
Like the logistics firm example, using an opaque AI for inventory.
Right. If its predictions are subtly off or its decisions flawed in ways humans don't see, you could get incorrect stock levels, missed shipments, messed up supply chains. All of that translates directly into financial losses.
And those losses aren't trivial.
Not at all. Sources suggest companies are losing an average of something like $12 million a year due to AI-related operational errors. That's a huge cost tied directly to how well you can manage and understand your AI's performance.
Okay, so the picture is clear. The risks are substantial, legal, reputational, financial. But it's not all doom and gloom. The material we looked at also lays out some practical steps, strategies to actually build transparency and trust.
Yes, definitely. And a really crucial first step is actively looking into and adopting what's called explainable AI, or XAI. These aren't just buzzwords. They're actual tools and techniques designed to make AI decision-making clearer, more interpretable for us humans.
So instead of just getting an output, an XAI system might show you why it reached that conclusion, like the key factors it considered.
Exactly. It can provide insights into the reasoning, maybe a confidence score, or even highlight the specific data points that most influence the outcome. It adds that vital layer of visibility.
And does it work in practice?
Well, remember that financial institution example? They successfully used explainable AI not just to spot bias in loan approvals, but also to document why each decision, approved or denied, was made. That transparency was key for compliance. They could actually show their logic.
And the impact.
Pretty significant.
Yeah.
Businesses using XAI report seeing around a 70% reduction in AI-related compliance and regulatory issues. That's a massive improvement.
Okay, so XAI is one pillar. What else?
Regular AI audits. This is absolutely vital. You can't just set up an AI and assume it will stay perfect. You need routine checks, reviewing the models, scrutinizing their outputs over time.
Like a regular health check for your AI?
Precisely. To proactively look for any emerging biases, drifts in accuracy, or potential data privacy risks that might develop as the model learns or the data changes. And the data shows this works. Companies doing quarterly AI audits see about 50% fewer incidents involving data misuse or AI inaccuracies.
So consistent oversight pays off. Makes sense. What about the data itself?
That's the next critical piece, strengthening data governance. It's not just about the AI model, it's about the fuel it runs on the data. You need robust frameworks that clearly define how AI tools are allowed to collect, store, process, and use data within your organization.
Setting clear boundaries and rules for the AI.
Exactly. Think about the healthcare example with the misdiagnosis risk. Strong data governance protocols, specifying exactly how patient data can be used by diagnostic AI tools, are essential to minimize risks of breaches or misuse.
And that has a measurable effect, too.
Yes, organizations with strong data governance tend to reduce AI-related privacy incidents by around 60%. Managing the data inputs is just as important as understanding the AI's process.
Okay, XAI, audits, data governance, anything else?
One more crucial element: continuous training. Education for your employees, for your leadership on AI risks, on the importance of transparency, ethics, compliance requirements. The landscape changes fast. People need to keep up.
Building that awareness and capability within the team.
It's about fostering a culture of responsible AI use. There was an example of a global consulting firm. They saw a big drop in AI errors and compliance issues after they rolled out ongoing training focused on AI risks, ethics, and transparency.
So knowledgeable staff are less likely to misuse AI or overlook potential problems.
Right, and the stats reflect that. Businesses providing regular AI ethics training experience about 40% fewer incidents related to AI transparency issues.
Looking at some real-world stories really helps bring these points home, doesn't it? The difference between getting it right and getting it wrong.
Absolutely. Let's start with a success story. There was this mid-sized financial firm. They didn't just jump on the AI bandwagon, they were proactive. They specifically chose and integrated explainable AI tools from the start, and they simultaneously beefed up their data governance framework, specifically with AI in mind.
And what happened? What were the results for them?
Well, they actually saw improved decision accuracy because they could validate the AI's reasoning. But maybe more importantly, they achieved greater transparency, which helped with regulators and significantly boosted customer trust. That proactive stance reduced their risks across the board: compliance, reputation, everything.
So the key lesson there is that focusing on transparency isn't just a cost or a burden, it's actually a strategic advantage. It protects you and builds trust.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with a failure example. A healthcare provider rolled out an AI diagnostic tool. It was pretty much a black box, gave answers, but no explanations. And critically, they didn't put strong enough safeguards or governance around how it was used.
Uh-oh. I can see where this is going.
Predictably, yeah. The lack of transparency meant AI misdiagnoses happened, and they weren't easily caught or explained. This led directly to patient complaints, which then triggered regulatory investigations and ultimately caused serious damage to public trust in that provider.
A stark contrast. It really shows that ignoring AI transparency isn't just a minor oversight. It can lead to genuine crises, operational, legal, reputational. It's a huge gamble.
A gamble most businesses can't afford to take.
So thinking ahead, how can organizations make sure they are future-proofing their approach to AI trust and transparency?
Well, a key thing is to prioritize explainability right from the beginning. When you're choosing new AI solutions, don't just look at features and price. Make transparency and interpretability core selection criteria. Ask how it works, not just what it does.
Build it in from the start, rather than trying to bolt it on later.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to bring in outside help. Engaging third-party experts, independent auditors, or consultants can be incredibly valuable. They can provide an objective assessment of your AI systems, verify transparency claims, spot hidden risks, and advise on ethical deployment.
Get a fresh pair of eyes on it.
Right. And internally, you need clear lines of accountability. Who in your organization is ultimately responsible for overseeing AI transparency, ethics, and compliance? It needs to be clearly defined, assigned responsibility, not just left floating.
Makes sense. So, wrapping this all up, the core message from the material seems pretty clear. Blindly trusting AI systems without understanding them is just not a sustainable strategy. The risks are too high.
Absolutely. Operational risks, compliance failures, reputational damage, they're all very real consequences. Embracing transparent, accountable AI practices isn't just about ticking boxes or avoiding penalties. It's really a strategic necessity for building trust, managing risk collectively, and making sure that your AI journey leads to responsible, ethical, and genuinely beneficial growth.
So the call to action for our listeners is pretty direct then.
I think so. Take a hard look at the AI tools you're using right now. Ask the tough questions. How transparent are they really? Where are the gaps? Identify where you need better explainability, stronger data governance, more frequent audits, or maybe enhanced training for your teams.
Don't wait for a problem to emerge. Be proactive.
Exactly, as one of the sources nicely put it. Don't let AI become a black box in your organization. Transparency and accountability today ensure a safer, more reliable AI future tomorrow.
A very fitting final thought. And once again, if this discussion was valuable for you, please do make sure you subscribe to the Technology Risk Podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It helps us keep these conversations going.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll talk to you on the next one.